It's 10 minutes past 11. We welcome you to the third and final hour of Power Talk on Power 987 with me, Bongi Kwala, in for Dr. Ndlozi this morning. We are together then until 12. Power Lunch, 12 to 3 with Babi Boloi this afternoon. Let's now talk to Dr. Nonkululeko Mandula, co-chairperson, BRICS Journalist Association. She's also the CEO and founder of GSQ Media. There is a great move towards South-to-South collaboration and multipolarism. Organizations and intergovernmental organizations such as BRICS Plus have proven that the Global South has the political will to collaborate and emancipate their GDPs while collectively setting an agenda to self-determination. And this stance of BRICS bloc has been seen as a threat by the Western countries who have for decades benefited from the resources and systematically designed vulnerabilities of countries in Africa and the Global South. It's good to talk to you, Dr. Mandula. Thanks for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Sorry, it's
Thank
just me having a moment here. I should have pressed a button or something. You know these things, they happen.
Well, you know what? Now that we are both on air, I'm very glad. It's such an honor. I look up to you. My entire career has been premised around voices like yourself. So it's such an honor to be with you on air.
Oh, we really appreciate. We thank you very much for that. So we will talk shortly about the work that you are doing at BRICS Journalist Association and what is it that you stand for. But, just looking at the BRICS bloc, Brazil, Russia, India, China, BRIC, when it started 2001, and then South Africa joining around about 2010, it was established to challenge the establishment, as it were, excuse the pun. But you're looking at, the International Monetary Fund, the United Nations, and many other organizations. They set themselves up to challenge the status quo. But we still find certain things have not moved, really. You still find the IMF, for instance, lending money to developing worlds, particularly in Africa, and you know that they put structural adjustments that are just difficult to implement, and they are plunging these countries further into poverty. The UN, the Security Council with veto powers, still those nations that have been there forever, and so on and so on. In your view, has BRICS been successful in challenging some of the established principles that we have seen over very, very many decades?
I'm very grateful that you set your historical context of the BRICS bloc and what they stand for, their formation. Now, when it comes to success is measured by the impact on the ground. And the impact on the ground for the people who are living within the countries of the BRICS member states. And I must say, there has been some success. However, more still needs to be achieved. Looking at the Rio Declaration that was just issued out now in the beginning of July after the 17th summit, we see that the BRICS heads of states have really enhanced the tune that they've been giving the world around what BRICS stands for and what they are working towards. So yes, it is successful when we are hearing heads of states from countries from the Global South speak about issues of artificial intelligence and how it can be utilized to grow us as the Global South bloc. It is encouraging and it is progressive to see them speak and even put in their declaration the issues of reforms that are needed in global financial institutions, and also not shying away from the G20 and even making mention that, the G20 has a critical key role to play in international economic cooperation and strengthening corporate agreements and corporate working together within the Global South. So these are progressive, but it is how they materialize down and trickle down to the ordinary person on the street that will say, yes, this success is success that is measurable. Remember, within the BRICS bloc, there are so many different countries that want to join. So from the initial countries that were there, we are now seeing more partners coming in, the 10 that are already signed in. We are seeing the growth of the BRICS Bank, the New Development BRICS Bank. That is progressive. But as a South African, can I say that the ordinary nonkululeko or walking on the road is experiencing BRICS and its impact? I can't boldly say that. So from grassroots level here in South Africa, I've yet to see the translation of declarations over the past 17 years come to fruition. I'm yet to see women, youth, those in academia, those in media, actually feeling the impact of BRICS.
Yeah, that is so fascinating, because the impact of BRICS could be felt almost instantaneously. I mean, you're talking about the 5 countries, the 4 original members of BRIC, and then South Africa BRICS, and then you have the plus now with Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, and the United Arab Emirates being part of that. Indonesia also is coming through, Egypt, and many other countries. When you look at the numbers, you look at the GDP of BRICS collectively, and you look at the market of BRICS collectively, we've not even started trading with each other as a bloc. I know that there is a South-South cooperation, there is a China-South Africa cooperation, and so on. But collectively, as the BRIC member states, we've not really pushed the envelope, have we?
No, we definitely haven't. I think one of the major challenges is definitely how finances are flowing.
Yeah.
We are still very dependent on the US dollar, the SWIFT system, and there's a huge pushback. I mean, that's why some of the sanctions that we are getting from the USA, the president of the USA, Donald Trump, is very explicit in saying he's going to crash whatever efforts of seeing the dollar not being utilized as a stable currency from BRICS. So there's a pushback. 10% high tariffs that are being punted around. The 1st of August, we're all nervous. So yes, there are a couple of factors that have not seen us as the BRICS bloc starting to trade with each other. But other countries are still trading. Here in South Africa, and I always will bring it back home because we are South Africans first, as much as we are Global South citizens. I think one of the challenges that we have here in South Africa is action. Yes, we are part of this BRICS bloc, but are we actually acting in the benefit of business in South Africa with the BRICS countries? Because to trade with our fellow BRICS countries is not a challenge. Even with these current sanctions, even with other countries being sanctioned, and you can't trade with them directly, but there are ways and means of trading. There's still trade between China and Russia, although Russia has been sanctioned. So we are just not actors. And those who are able to get into the spaces of acting and actually materializing trade deals are, and I know this is a word that's being used quite a lot, but I'm going to be honest, are keeping.
Yeah.
So there will always be a deficit in trade. And South Africa is currently feeling it. I mean, look at Africa. We've got the Africa Free Trade Agreement. Why are we not utilizing that to trade with Ethiopia? Because now we've got 2 agreements with Ethiopia. It's the Africa Free Trade Agreement plus the BRICS, but we're not trading. So we need to start acting, and we need those in authority in the BRICS structure to let go of or relinquish this power mongering that they are displaying. And there is a display of that. Those who are there, who are able to make business trades, are closing off the rest of the ordinary South African business people, or even in industry, various industries. We see the same faces over and over again. And this is why we are not seeing tangible change as South Africans. The euphoria of 2023, when we hosted the 15th BRICS Summit, faded away 2 months later in South Africa. Media was not covering anything to do with BRICS. So no one is going to be held accountable. So there's much that still needs to be done, Bookboom.
And importantly, then, it's the voice of the BRICS nations. You say, don't censor our voices, don't restrain our freedom. That's the cry of BRICS. For instance, there was a meeting now in Brazil, and one of the issues that was discussed there is the fate of the Palestinians in Gaza. That voice was not necessarily punctuated by mainstream media and cable networks. It was just part of their bulletin somewhere in between sport and weather and so on and so on. I mean, it wasn't as strong as you would see when a particular narrative is being driven. So let's then come back to the core of this interview, which is really the voice of the organization that you represent. BRICS Journalists Association. What do you stand for? Who are you? Who are members of this association?
Now, the BRICS Journalists Association is a very beautiful body that is all-encompassing for media practitioners, journalists, bloggers. We're in the new digital age, and we have not forgotten that. So it's open to anyone from the BRICS countries and the Global South in totality. We've got members from many different countries, countries like Venezuela, countries like Pakistan, who are not even member states, some of them, and Bangladesh, who are not member states of BRICS, but are part of this Journalists Association. What the association stands for is to make sure that journalists have an organization that will protect and fight and advocate for their rights, their freedoms of communication, and also make sure that our voices are heard as journalists. Now, these sanctions were imposed by the European Union on the 15th of July. And when they were imposed, one thing that was cited was the fact that individuals, so there were new sanctions, 6 entities and 9 individuals were sanctioned by the European Union. And what was cited by for these individuals and the entities is that the BRICS Journalists Association, along everyone else that has been sanctioned, are pushing foreign false information under FEMI, right? So this is foreign information manipulation interruptions. And this is not true. There was no evidence given as to which information was peddled that was incorrect. But the one thing that is certain is the fact that the voices of the Global South are now telling their own story, like stories of issues that are happening in the Sahel. There is one who has been sanctioned from that region, Natalie Yamba, who is very vocal about what is going on. But she's been sanctioned as an individual because she's been vocal. She's spoken about what is happening on the ground, the challenges, and she's called out France and so on. And that has angered and upset the EU. There is no fact to the basis of these sanctions. And as a fraternity that wants to be inclusive, that wants to make sure that the United Nations Action Plan for journalists, the Windhoek Declaration that UNESCO signed, that was brought about by the African Union, we want to make sure that all these legal precepts that govern the work of journalists is upheld, because we do have those rights enshrined. But now with these sanctions, those rights are taken away. Any journalist, and they have not specified to say, if you are a journalist and you come from a BRICS country, will you not get intercepted if you travel into European Union territory? So traveling into these territories is also very dangerous for us right now, because they did not say, Unonkulego will not get arrested or will get arrested. They've just said BRICS Association, Journalists Association. I don't think they know who our members are, and I've got the inkling, because there's a lot of fake news happening, that all of us within the BRICS countries are under their radar. We are not allowed to travel, according to these sanctions, to any European Union territories. finances are going to be cut, so accounts will be frozen if you've got an international account. No one can pay you from EU. It's just against human rights, and it is also against the rights that are enshrined for journalists to be able to have freedom of speech and freedom of movement.
All right. My guest is Dr. Nonkululeko Mantula, who is the co-chairperson, BRICS Journalists Association, and the CEO and founder of GSQ Media. We're talking about media freedom largely, but we're talking about the movement of journalists, bloggers, people who are on digital space who are really trying to amplify the voice of the BRICS nation. We see the pushback that is coming through. The issue of de-dollarization also is another issue that is coming through. Perhaps I will ask about the support from other media agencies, established media agencies, if they look at this and say, this is unfair, this is persecution of journalists, because that is what they keep on saying. But are they then practicing what they keep on saying? We'll continue with this conversation shortly.
9 a.m. to noon. This is Power Talk on Power 98.7.
All right, Nonkululeko, let's start wrapping up this conversation. You have highlighted the platforms, but mainstream linear platforms like we know, television and so on, where are you there? We've seen some of the BRICS member states broadcasting services being suspended here in the UK, all over the place. And perhaps the support or lack of it that you are getting from the established networks that are there, who say that, we understand the media freedom, we understand the issue of independence and so on and so on. We are with you on this one.
Look, I must say that there's been a great uptake from media houses globally to take this story on. But if you go online and you look, the narratives are skewed either towards the EU or towards the Global South's freedom of movement and speech. Media houses are supporting. However, we need more support. We need more support. We need this to be spoken more about by all media platforms. And the biggest support that is required right now is support from heads of states, from Africa, from the Global South, from the African Union, to support the letter of appeal that we sent. There was a letter sent by our director at the BRICS Journalists Association, Ivan Melnikov, who sent it on behalf of the Association for BRICS Journalists to the United Nations, citing all the legalities that are there for international protection for journalists' rights. And all of this information has been sent. This letter was sent. Now we need support so that the UN can act timelessly with urgency to make sure that the EU retracts these absolutely ludicrous allegations and also sanctions against journalists and the individuals. And we need heads of states, we need departments and ministers of communications, ministers of foreign affairs, and ministers who will stand together and say, no, please, UN, hear this appeal, make a change. We also need the support of journalists, whether you're part of the association or not. We just need that support because journalists we are the mouthpiece of our communities, of our countries. But it seems like our work being the mouthpiece is undermined, although we've got all these international laws that protect us, dating back from 1991 here in Africa, from the Windhoek Declaration. So we need that support from media houses as well. Do not undermine the role of journalists. Do not undermine the work that we are doing. But heads of states need to come up. They need to come together and make sure that they stand for us. And as for BRICS, the heads of state need to give the BRICS Journalists Association an opportunity the way they give other organs of BRICS, like the BRICS Women's Business Alliance, the BRICS Think Tank, the BRICS Business Forum. We need to get that voice. We need to be part of the declaration. Our plight needs to be there. Journalists are still being killed. Yeah. Journalists are being accused of false things. Journalists are still being sidelined. So we also need to be part of the fiber because we are the ones who disseminate information. And the great thing is there are mechanisms for fact-checking thinking that have been developed from countries in the global south, which are more credible and which we want to push for, so that we start using those as opposed to those that we've been using from the West that have always pushed against the narrative of upliftment of the global south.
Nkululeko Mantula, thank you very much. Co-chairperson of BRICS Journalists Association, CEO and founder, GSQ Media. Really appreciate this conversation. There you have it, South Africa. The invitation has been issued. Please do join and even support their cause as well.